So today on Simply Happy podcast, I have with me Alice McDonald. She's a divorce and separation coach, and she's helping women to rebuild their lives after a long-term relationship. These women generally have adult children or older children. So welcome, Alice.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, thank you for making the time, because I know that you're on the other side of Australia to me, so it's harder to navigate those time things as well, isn't it? So maybe start and tell us a little bit about yourself and the things that you like to do in your free time.
In my free time, every day I actually, I sound pretty boring, but my free time is I love to start my day by walking to the coffee shop, and I love it if it's a sunny day, because then I can take my dog and we walk over to the coffee shop and sit and have a coffee and read a book. Reading books is actually just one of my highlights. If I could get paid $1 million or a significant amount of money for just reading books and only ones that I like, I'd be happy.
And so you prefer fiction or non-fiction type of books, or a bit of both?
I like both. I quite like personal development and non-fiction books in that kind of arena. But when I'm going to sleep, I love a good historical fiction book. But actually, at the moment, I'm reading one called The Tudors in Love, which is actually all about the Tudor family of England and all the kings and queens of many years ago. And it's actually not fiction. It's actually history. But you wouldn't believe some of the stuff they get up to.
Oh, it'd be amazing. It'd be really interesting.
So it occurs like fiction, yeah. And I feel like I'm doing something smart by downloading some history.
Oh, I love that. That's such a beautiful practice. Yes, I could do that if that was a full-time job, just reading and chilling, reading, drinking a coffee and just sharing the books that I've read. That would be a great job, wouldn't it?
It'd be amazing.
So tell us about your business and how it started and why you started the business in the first place.
It's generally a long story to get to where I am today. But the simple version is, my background is in psychology. I've done a lot of coaching before in self-expression and leadership and that sort of thing. Post-divorce myself, I was like, well, what am I going to do with myself? I studied financial planning for a while inside of, helping women, look after their finances to achieve the goals that they want in life. And then I looked at the lifestyle elements of that. I'm like, I'm not sure that I really want to do that. And that's not where my passion lies as much. And so I stepped into life coaching. And so I specialize in this particular area to make it easier for people fundamentally. As you mentioned before, so most of the women I work with are around 50, give or take a bit. They have older teens or adult kids. And so they're not only presented with, I don't have my marriage that I always imagined going forward and, life beyond kids going forward with my husband, but might be travel and so on and so on. But also now my kids are not under my feet anymore. What do I do with myself now? What's my purpose in life? I've spent the last 20 to 30 years, looking after my family. What do I want to do? I don't even know what I want anymore. And it's a really complicated process in terms of emotionally looking after yourself, but also the complexities of legal stuff and other practical elements, right? So I started in this space to make it easier for people because I know how hard it was for myself, and to have somebody who is not involved, who's independent and can think, because a lot of the time in this space, you just can't, your brain goes out the window, I think is just a blessing. And I wish I'd had somebody like me to bring it all through, to be honest.
Well, isn't that what they say? You practice what you wish what you needed, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I brought it all together for myself using different people and resources, but it was a lot of hard work, and so my plan is to make that a lot easier for people.
Yeah, oh, that's beautiful. And so do you find it's the people you attract are people who have been separated for a long period of time before they come to you, or it's pretty much straight after that's happened?
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. So I get a bit of there's 3 different areas. So one of the places that people often come to me at, and I was quite surprised with this in the beginning, is where they're considering separating with their partner, but they're not really quite sure how to go about having a conversation or what to do about that. And really interestingly, a lot of people who have found out that their husband's having an affair or something like that's come up. And again, I really love my husband. I've been with him for 25 to 30 years. I don't want to get rid of my marriage. How do I go about having a conversation in a loving way? And some of the beautiful things that I love about this particular conversation is very often we're able to save a marriage, which is beautiful by, having some really structured conversations from a place of love. So sometimes that's where people come to me. Sometimes it's like, we've just made the decision, whether it's, the husband has come and said, look, I don't want to be married anymore, or it goes the other way, or sometimes it's an amicable split. And they're like, I don't know where to start. It's all overwhelming. Where do I start with the legal stuff? Do I stay at home in the family home? What do we do with our kids? Like, it's just too much. And the other place that's quite common for women to come to me is when it's like 18 to 2 months down the track after the separation's all complete, and they're like, I just can't find my feet in anymore. Like, I know that I want to have this amazing future going forward, but I keep getting stuck. I'm working with a lady right now, and she's a writer and a poet, and she's got books out and she's got great dreams. She says, some days I just can't get out of bed. Like, I'm really struggling to let go of my relationship. And that was a very amicable split. It's what she wants. But trying to get herself on her feet and just trying to stay positive in those moments of grief and moving forward and loving herself during that space. So 3 different places.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that, what you were saying, though, that whole process of grief. Even though she's come from a place where she wanted the separation and knows it's going to benefit in the long run, but you've still got that period to grieve, which I'm sure having your psychology background definitely would be helpful in a coaching area.
Yeah, I think it does. So I'm not a psychologist per se, but it definitely makes a difference in understanding the human psyche. But I think also just having gone through it
definitely
makes the biggest thing. And people don't. I think because divorce is so common these days, which is incredibly sad, that people go, "Oh, they're just getting divorced." It's not like someone died, but sometimes it feels worse than like somebody's died, right? So you no longer have that person in your life. You no longer have the future that you were looking forward to. You no longer have the family that you were looking forward to. All your dreams that you had have now disappeared, and you don't have your best friend there to help you deal with it. Like, the grief is just enormous, right?
Yeah, definitely. So then you just touched on it. What about the other emotional challenges that people face? And in particular, I suppose it's like, focusing on organization and decluttering. Like, how about, that whole part of it, and letting go of the things that you've purchased together, or, that you've created together. I mean, even down to, photo albums, and there's so much. It's like such a huge can of worms, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, especially when you start digging through those cupboards that you haven't opened for years. It's one of those things where you just have to do a little bit at a time. And it can be incredibly overwhelming, and you often don't have the strength to deal with, big things. But you can deal with big things a little bit at a time. And often what I recommend with the people that I work with is, just do one thing a day. And if that's all you do, you know that you're making progress towards it. You'll feel better about yourself, because it's not this big overwhelming loom thing that, oh shit, I've got so much stuff to do. But it's just too overwhelming. I can't think about it. But if I know that I'm making progress towards it each day and it's being chipped away at, that makes a big difference. So, you might just do one cupboard a day, or you might just do one drawer a day. But in reference to what you're talking about with the emotional side of it, this is something that people really underestimate. Healing emotionally, especially while you're grieving, is really, it uses so much energy, right? And when you're going through old memories and you pull them out, sometimes just moving them to the side and bringing that memory up again uses energy up. And so one of the things that I recommend that people are really conscious of when they're doing, clearing out their stuff, is that they remember that this is a really emotionally charged process, and to remember to rest. Because we might think, it's just clearing out a cupboard, but it's not just clearing out a cupboard. It is bringing up all of those memories. And we talked about that grief before. It's like, it's bringing up all those memories. Oh, that's lost too. Yes. I don't have that to share with that person anymore. And sometimes I don't know what to do with this thing, as you mentioned, that we bought together when we went away to Rome, for example, right? Why don't we still have that love that we had before? But photo albums are really challenging. I certainly found that for myself.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing is you have to be really gentle with yourself and not feel any pressure to get rid of anything.
Yeah.
There's
because
no pressure.
Even making a decision, the clients I work with, making decisions on what we're going to do without even that side of it is really difficult. So adding that extra, layer I could imagine how exhausted, because that's one of the things that I'm always making clients aware of. You're going to feel really exhausted this afternoon or tonight because you've made a lot of decisions. You've put a lot of pressure on your brain, and they're like, oh no, but you're doing all the work. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just moving stuff around and making homes. I'm not doing the decision making. You're doing all of that.
Yeah, and that's where, going back to what I said before, which is just do one bit a day. Don't go, you know, especially if you've got a looming house sale coming up, which is often the stage that people are in when they're going through a separation divorce. At some point, you're likely to have to do that or move, right? And that can be, you know, there's so much more to even add in there when you add in a move. But just chipping away at it over time means that you can do a little bit, rest, care for yourself, do a bit the next day. And it does get easier and easier. But also for those things that you're not ready to move on yet, don't move them on. You know, wait until you're emotionally ready. There's some things that I didn't move on for several years, and then it got to the point where I'm okay to let go of those now.
And did you box up some stuff that you just weren't ready to, you know, deal with at the time, and then later when you felt the need? Or
yeah, one of the things that was challenging for me, and it's often something that comes up for a lot of people, is what do you do with your wedding photos?
Oh, yes.
You know, we've got these, you know, most people have a gorgeous album of wedding photos, and I read different things about it on the internet, and I'm like, do I hang on to them? I'm like, and then some people are like, no, you should keep them for your kids. And I'm quite a minimalist, right? Like, I don't like to have stuff around that I'm not using, or anything that holds bad energy for me. I don't want it around. But I'm like, I don't feel great about the photos, but you know, it's still like, I still appreciated my marriage, and I'd love to have some memories from it. So I kept a handful of them, specifically because I would love my children to have them at some point in time, if you know, if they want them. I didn't want to get rid of all of them, and then I sent them on to my ex-husband, and he can do whatever he wants if he wants to keep them.
Yep.
Yeah. But it took me quite some time. I think that box moved around several places before I was ready to get rid of it. But before that, I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, just it's really important that you be really kind to yourself in this space. And if you're not ready to let something go, to just hang on to it until you are ready. But if it is holding something really negative for you, you shouldn't hang on to it.
Yeah, that's a great tip around waiting, and when you feel that you've got the time, the energy, and the emotional capability to do it, is to then tackle it rather than pushing yourself. So what's some tips around looking after yourself when during this time?
The first one is feed yourself well. It's really about going back to the basics. We all know the things that we need to do to look after ourselves well as human beings: eat well, exercise, catch up with friends, which can and I say that like it's easy, right? But at the same time, actually, no, it's not. When you don't want to see people, you can't be bothered going to the shops. You've got to look at different ways to be able to do that. So one of the things that I encourage people to do is, you know, get a cleaner in. You know, so that you're not coming into your house and feeling, oh my goodness, there's just so much that I need to do that's filthy, whatever. Get a cleaner in, get a meal delivery service. If you know that you're not going to look after yourself nutritionally, get a meal delivery service. Anything that you can outsource to make your life easier, highly recommend. In terms of, you know, looking after yourself, going out into the sun, going for a walk, you know, anytime anything feels overwhelming, it's time to stop, down tools at whatever you're doing, and just go and do something that is replenishing, whether it's sitting and having a cup of tea. You know, sometimes even now when I'm a bit overwhelmed with things, I'm like, you know what I need to do right now is I need to take that walk that we talked before and go to the coffee shop with my dog and just sit there, read my book for half an hour, and then come back recharged. And it's different for everybody.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's people who just get absorbed by their work and throw themselves in their work to, you know, drown out everything else that's around them. But I suppose it's that recognizing those emotions, isn't it? And just sitting with them. The awareness, isn't it, around what you're feeling, rather than just numbing or getting rid of them, pushing them aside, isn't it? And
well, you can do that, but it's going to come back.
Yeah,
it's going to come back. Like if you're numbing it and you're just pushing it aside, it's going to come back. What you need to do during this space is be really kind and gentle with yourself, and know that your capacity is going to be reduced. It just is. I mean, even cognitively, we know that it reduces your capacity to be able to do things and think about things. And I don't know if there's this is an actual, certified fact. Someone told me once is you lose 25% of your cognitive ability during this time because you're under a lot of stress and emotional distress as well. So, you just have to be really kind to yourself and just know that your capacity is reduced, and just to do things bite-sized at a time when you're ready, and ask for help when you're getting stuck and before you're even getting stuck sometimes, right?
Yeah, because we're not good at, some people, we're not good at asking for help, are we? Yes.
Yeah, and especially, us women who have been around for a while and we've been used to running everything for everyone else, we can do stuff. Yes, we can, but we don't need to do it at our own expense.
Yeah, that's that, and the tip about outsourcing, I think, are huge, valuable tips for people to take away from our conversation. Well, thank you, Alice, so much for your time and for sharing your information about what you do, as well as those tips as well. How can people connect with you?
Super easy. Easiest way is to go to my website, which is alicemcdonald.com. So it's an MC for McDonald, and that'll give you links to my Instagram and Facebook as well. And
so do you offer, so it's coaching and it's online, so anyone anywhere in the world can access you?
Anyone, anywhere in the world. So I've had people from Hong Kong, the USA, China, the other side of Australia and Perth. So yeah, anywhere at all.
Oh, beautiful. That's fantastic. Isn't that the best thing about our online world now?
It sure is. We wouldn't be having this conversation otherwise,
right?
No,
true. Well, thank you so much, Alice, for your time.
Super welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.